People always say, add more CalMag, like it's some miracle fix-all. But is that really the case? That's what we're going to get into today. But before we get into it, today's video is brought to you by Real Growers Grow Dots, the absolute simplest way to feed your plants. You mix them in once at the beginning of the grow, and they feed all the way to harvest. You don't have to worry about nutrient burn, nutrient lockout. Grow Dots does all the hard work for you. Check them out over at realgrowers.com. And come on, man, you want to talk a little CalMag?
I do. So I know that speaking of Grow Dots, this is one of the things that we've been slowly dialing in is the amount of magnesium, I think in particular, but also calcium. Let me know what's going on there.
Our favorite plants are very magnesium hungry, but you have to get the calcium and magnesium in the right ratio. And I can tell you about that. It gets into a little bit of science, but I can tell you about that.
Okay, before we jump into that,
Yes,
explain to me. So calcium and magnesium, they're not like the main nutrients like NPK. They're secondary nutrients?
Yeah, you might as well NP and K. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and the K is potassium. All right, the P was already taken by phosphorus. NP and K, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, primary nutrients. Then you've got your secondary nutrients, and that's where calcium and magnesium fall. They're not needed in those giant amounts that the NP and K are, but they're still needed substantially. And then the other one is the micronutrients, and those are just needed in, ready, micro amounts. They're just very small amounts. It's things like boron, molybdenum.
Okay, and I know that calcium and magnesium deficiencies are something that are very common amongst growers. Explain to me how that happens, deficiencies in calcium and magnesium.
So calcium and magnesium are both needed by the plant. They're needed in different amounts. Now, here's the problem, as it's a little bit of chemistry. I'm not a chemist, but when you look at these elements, they both calcium and magnesium, they have charges to them. These elements have charges, and calcium and magnesium both have two positive charges. So think of it as a magnet. They're going to be very strongly attracted to the negative particles that are in the soil that want to hold that to the soil. It's the whole cation exchange capacity, whatever, man. The point is that both of those are equally attracted, so that if you put them both in the equal proportions, we'll say, they can block each other out. They're going to be fighting for space in that soil.
Okay, and so you were talking about, before we jump too far ahead, actually, I want to talk about the deficiencies. How do I know if my plant has a calcium deficiency or a magnesium deficiency? Can you tell just by looking at it?
Yeah, you can. I mean, of course, Google's your friend. But calcium deficiency looks bad. Calcium is an immobile nutrient. It's actually in the cell wall. It's what the plant builds itself with. And when there's calcium missing, it's brown. You'll see like brown edges. The leaf actually looks like it's rotting.
And then magnesium deficiency looks a little bit different.
Yeah, it looks a lot different. You're like, hey, something's a little wrong there. That leaf is going from, properly colored green to yellow. And you'll see it's called interveinal chlorosis. Again, Google's your friend. But you'll see the veins are still staying green and the rest of the plant is going yellow. Now, magnesium is a mobile nutrient, which is very cool because if you have a magnesium deficiency, you can water a little bit of magnesium in and it will fix the problem. It can actually move to where the problem is.
But that's not the case with calcium?
No, with calcium, what you got, the damaged tissue is what you got. It's not going to get any better, but more tissue that's non-calcium deficient, that's healthy, so hopefully grow in its place.
Stuff that's already grown is already lost, but it can, by adding calcium, you can make the new growth better.
Exactly. Like I said, calcium is deposited in the cell wall. It's not mobile. What's broken is broken.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's talk about if you have a calcium deficiency or a magnesium deficiency.
Sure.
Some ways to get calcium or magnesium into your plants.
Easiest way is Epsom salts. As far as for magnesium, it's magnesium sulfate. Plants like sulfur as well. Sulfur is a secondary nutrient. Some people will argue with it being a macronutrient because a plant uses a lot of it, or at least our favorite plant uses a lot of it.
Okay, so Epsom salt and magnesium nitrate for magnesium.
Yeah, magnesium nitrate is something where when you look at like the bottles at the grocery store, a lot of them, the liquids are magnesium nitrate.
Okay, what about for calcium? If I'm noticing I have some calcium deficiencies.
Again, calcium nitrate, lime, gypsum, bone meal is an organic source of them. And these are all like bone meal, super slow release source of calcium.
Guru once told me eggshells.
Yeah, eggshells are an excellent source of calcium. They do have to be broken down. That's why whether it's eggshells or bone meal, they all have to be microbially processed. Did I say that right? Microbially.
Reminds me to add some recharge to the mix.
Yeah, well, absolutely, man. It's certainly going to speed things up.
Okay, and we can add them in one at a time, but I've also seen products that have calcium and magnesium both in one product. Now,
yeah.
You were talking at the beginning about making sure that they were in the right proportion. Can you explain that, why that's important?
Yeah, if you put them in the wrong proportion, or even if you dump a bunch of calcium on there, that calcium has that magnetic charge, that double positive charge. It's going to stick to that soil. It's going to take up a lot the room for the double magnetic charge. When you put magnesium in there, all those spots are taken up, so the magnesium can't be absorbed. So putting them in at the same time at the right ratio, that's why there's CalMag, because hydroponic stores or hydroponic companies, they're not trusting you to understand that correct ratio, so they're giving it to you in that ratio premixed
In the right ratio, and you add them both at the same time to make sure that one doesn't block out the other.
Correct.
Okay, so let's answer the question that we asked at the beginning of the video. Is CalMag worth it?
If your soil is not built correctly, or if your nutrients aren't dialed in correctly and you need calcium or magnesium, yeah, I guess it would be worth it to assure that you're not going to get it locked out.
Okay. And then final plug for Grow Dots. I'm going to just throw this in.
Sure.
I know that we spent a year dialing it in, and we've got it to where it's perfect now, but it took us a year of playing around.
It wasn't easy. There is a perfect formula or an ideal ratio for calcium and magnesium. It's usually 2 parts calcium to 1 part magnesium. It doesn't work when you're doing a controlled release, when you're trying to figure all this out by weight and then to break down every day how it's going to break down. It took a lot more work. I wish I could have used that recipe.
Okay. So overall, your plants need the calcium, they need the magnesium.
Yes.
You either want it dialed in, or you might want to use an additive, but more is not always better.
No, definitely. If you add a ton of Epsom salts on there, it's going to block out all the calcium absorption points. You're going to have a calcium deficiency. Same thing the other way. So it's important to have them in balance, to have them in proportion, or to just apply them at the right ratio. And that's the idea behind CalMag. So do you need it? No. If you do need it, it sure is a nice solution to be able to not really think and just measure a tablespoon per gallon and pour it on there. I'll say that. But what about you? Do you use CalMag in your grow? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and check out the other couple videos YouTube's recommending over here.